Welcome back to the Storyboard podcast. In this episode, we are going to be talking with my husband and BFF, Jay, about his creative journey, how he got started, what inspires him, and then kind of some of the challenges he's faced along the way to get him to where he's at today.
Here we go, episode 3, and we're in a new spot.
Kind of. We just turned.
Yeah. So the first 2 episodes were that way, and now we're faced the opposite way. We're trying to get a rhythm. Yeah. We got just some random artwork in our house to set up, but...
It's not random.
No, it's not random.
It's like our achievements and our work.
Yeah.
But that's probably going to keep changing.
Mm-hmm.
But we like the 45-degree angle.
For those watching, you can see this, but if you're just listening to this, you can't see it. But we got some film festival awards, our little H-Town dude, Power Ranger helmet, 2 of our films that we've worked on, 3 of our films that we worked on, and you've had that poster forever, the camera poster. Mm-hmm. And then this cool picture of a longhorn that Kirby took in Dripping Springs, Tejas.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some artwork, and then one of our film awards. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's cool. I definitely want to keep adding to the walls, though.
Yeah. So yeah, let us know what you think of the new setup. I personally like this way better than the pink curtains. Those pink curtains, in my opinion, were a fail.
So the idea was that pink would be a very not muted color that would stand out in thumbnails and stuff. And we were trying to go for something bold, but it just didn't come across the way we wanted.
Looked like an 8-year-old girl's bedroom, but it's fine. This is way more us. This feels good. I'm still trying to decide, though, if I want to do the table, which I like having the table, or if we want to do 2 chairs. But yeah, we're figuring it out 1 episode at a time.
Yep. I think that taking the pressure off of having it all stay consistent the whole time makes it more fun for us to kind of just be able to adapt as we go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but today we are tackling Jay's creative history and story.
My creative history.
That sounds like a memoir.
I know.
Yeah, last time I got to talk about mine. It was really fun to kind of go down memory lane. And then really, in a really cool way, our stories kind of are intertwined because so much of our beginnings were together.
Yeah.
So hearing your perspective and your side is going to be really fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've said it a few times, but I've never got to have it recorded in detail, I guess. So this is cool. This will be fun to look back on. All
right. So do you want to just kind of walk through... I've heard you have I feel like your story is so unique and interesting because you have a background in multiple creative outlets with music and even art. And before you knew you liked filmmaking, your love of movies, as a kid going to the movies and the dollar movie or 50-cent movie and just being fascinated. I don't know how much of that came from us kind of both growing up in a really small town with nothing else to do, but your imagination... And you growing up as an only child, your imagination was always very creative and...
elaborate.
Yeah, it had to be. I think because you were bored,
Yeah.
You didn't have anything else to do except
growing up as an only child in...
sit and wander.
The middle of nowhere. And, my dad worked a lot. And I had a lot of time to spend to myself. So I was very, very imaginative as a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But... Yeah,
When was your earliest memory of loving movies?
My earliest memory, I think, when I was really little. I had to be 8 years old is when I have vivid memories of my mom taking me to the movies. We would go every week, especially on Tuesdays. I remember we had a dollar theater in the town we grew up. Well, the town closest to where we grew up. We had a dollar theater, and on Tuesdays they had 50-cent movies. Mm-hmm. So every Tuesday we would go watch movies for 50 cents and get popcorn. And I remember seeing everything from like Nutty Professor.
I was gonna say, did you watch like kid movies, or did y'all just go see anything? Like
Because
your mom
we saw
would go with
everything.
you.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
saw everything. Like I remember, like we'd see Dumb and Dumber. Like if there was a movie where something was bad, she'd just tell me to close my eyes.
Yeah.
But we saw everything, and I didn't know that movies were made that little. Mm-hmm. And I remember specifically in Batman Forever, going to see that as a kid, and when the credits were scrolling in the beginning, thinking it was a bunch of actors that were behind. It's kind of like at a theater. They're like all getting in their places, and they're about to like have a performance.
Yeah. I think I have a really funny story that's similar to that. When I was a kid, my cousins and I were watching, it was a cartoon. It might have been like Snow White. It was like a classic cartoon. And we thought that the characters lived behind the television screen.
Yeah,
and
I used to think that
they
too.
were like performing.
Yeah.
Like we thought they were real.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually got in trouble because we were so convinced that we were trying, one day we were trying to like look behind the TV to find them. And like, we were tiny, but we were like trying to pull the entertainment center like away from the wall, and the TV fell off the wall. I mean, luckily no one got hurt, but we got in so much trouble. And it was like, imagine kids trying to explain to like our grandparents, like we were trying to find the cartoons. But I think that's probably a common thing that kids probably don't fully grasp the idea of filming something.
They think these creatures are just living behind it.
Because it's like you believe the reality, like it's your reality.
Yeah. I remember that. But then I guess the moment, I say the moment, but the time that sticks out to me that I remember that films weren't made and that like people put these together, it was around the time DVDs came out. So maybe like the year 2000 or something like that. And I got the Rush Hour 2, I think it was Rush Hour 2 DVD and the Lord of the Rings extended edition DVD pack. And they had the making of, and I'd never seen movies being made. And I remember 2 clips. One was a clip of Jackie Chan and him and his stunt team and the director or the AD, I can't remember who it is. It's on YouTube. I watched it the other day. But they're in this room, in the scene, and they're talking out. Jackie's like, okay, what if we do this? What if we do that? What if we do this? And I just remember sitting there and being like, they're just like playing, like they're just like having fun and like figuring it out. And that just sparked my interest so much. And then
do you think it was enticing, like when VHSs were still really popular and they started doing these like extended editions to sell DVDs? Was it like, that's kind of why you buy the DVD? Because it's like got all this like bonus features and everything.
Yeah, I mean, because I think then
before that, people never really, there wasn't YouTube. People didn't get like an inside view or a behind the scenes view, I guess, like of that industry.
Yeah, no, I still bought VHSs. Like I had a bunch of movies. I just loved movies ever since I was a kid. I'd always watch them over and over and over, whether it was a cartoon or whatever. But once DVDs came out, it definitely became more enticing, and I bought them specifically for the behind the scenes. Yeah. That's why I had Lord of the Rings in the regular version and extended version, because the extended version had like
all the features,
like a 2-hour documentary on how it was made. And I remember seeing that one and seeing Elijah Wood.
Oh yeah.
And it was like kind of following him through his day, and it was like he woke up at like 4 a.m. and then he went and sat in the makeup chair for 2 hours to get his feet put on and his wig put on, and then like him and all the hobbits were like just hanging out. It looked like they were having so much fun. Waiting to be called, and they just like, it just looked like so much fun.
Yeah.
And that sparked my interest into wanting to act. And because that's kind of like all I saw. It was you saw the actor's perspective of it.
I guess like that was more appealing to the general public, like the actor side.
That's who you see. So it's like you were seeing like Jackie Chan work, and you were seeing the actors like Elijah Wood and Sean Astin and all them work. And so I was like, I want to act. Like that's what I want to do. Yeah. And I told my parents, and they were like, sure, whatever, you know.
Well, I mean, you're really fortunate that, I don't know, like so many kids say things like that, and it seems like just like such a far-fetched dream, and parents are like, yeah, right, like no one does that. You know, so I think it's pretty cool that your parents were actually like supportive.
Yeah, they were very supportive. So
like they didn't think you were like crazy.
And we do not come from a family that's in that world at all. And they had no idea how to do it. We had no internet to like research how do you act, or like how do you become an actor. And I remember, I don't even know how they found this company, but there was a talent agency in Houston. I don't know if they heard about it from a friend or something like that.
Well,
but
back then, like on the radio and stuff,
Yeah,
they
like-
used to have those things that were like, if you want to be a Disney star, like call this number. You know, it could have even been like
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
and they signed, or they told me, they're like, oh, we found this agency and they like get you jobs and stuff. And I didn't know what an agent was.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. So I remember going there and you had to take some acting classes and they did your headshots.
How old were you?
I think I was about 13 then.
Okay.
So
It's so crazy because like I know you as like such a shy, quiet, like you are not like, when you think of like a theater kid, that was not you.
No, not me at all.
Like you are
Yeah.
not the person to like stand up and sing in front of the class or something.
And I was
So
terrified. Like whenever
Yeah.
they would do the acting classes and we had to go up in front of everybody and you had to like
it's just crazy
do a
that you
monologue.
like wanted to learn about it so much that you were
Yeah.
willing to make yourself uncomfortable,
But
even as like a teenager.
You know what's funny is I did a lot of like, like the UIL school competitions and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I did public speaking ones and I did like where you would memorize like paragraphs
Well, yeah,
of book.
you'd have a crazy good memory.
And every single person, every time I performed, I always won. And they always said, you're either going to be like a public speaker, a pastor, or an actor. Because I spoke so well and I
Yeah.
could do it. But it's like a switch I can turn on.
Yeah,
It's not
you
like,
can like pretend
it
not
doesn't
be
come
nervous.
natural. Yeah, so I did that. And nothing really came from that agency. I kind of think they were like a little bit of a scam. Like kind of, I say scam, but they kind of,
Yeah, it didn't lead to.
yeah, they kind of prey on people with like hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
But somehow around that same time, I don't know how they found this either, if it was like through a newspaper article or what, but they saw that the Spy Kids 2 premiere was happening in Austin because they filmed it in Austin. So they were having a premiere at the Paramount Theater and they got tickets to it somehow.
Your mom and dad, you
My
mean?
mom and dad, yeah. And so I was so excited. They took me to the premiere and all the actors were there. Robert Rodriguez, the director, was there. Everyone was there. And I'm in my head, I'm like, this is my chance. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to meet them. They're going to love me. And I'm going to be,
a star.
yeah. And I remember there sitting, lining like the red carpet. I was like right in front and they all like walked by and we took pictures with them. And then off to the side, Robert Rodriguez was there, the director. And I think it like my mom or my dad was like, go talk to him, go say hi, So I went up to him and I was like, hey, like I introduced myself and I was like, if I can be in one of your movies, like I would love to audition if that's possible. And he actually like gave me a number to a casting director. He's like, just call them, they'll like put you in their database, and which I thought it was cool. And he didn't just like completely.
I mean,
blow me
now
off.
hindsight, that's like insane.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was
Which also is crazy that he grew to become one of your, if not your favorite director.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that says a lot,
Yeah.
about like his character.
Yeah. I would love to do like an entire episode just on him because like he has so many good things.
And so much influence.
Yeah. Like good nuggets and good, like, I don't know, just advice for people. But he's kind of like more popular, I guess, with people my age, like more of the like millennial type thing that a lot of people don't
like,
really.
And he's like the underdog.
Yeah.
He's a fun like underdog to root for.
But yeah, he
So you called the number.
Yeah, we called the number. We gave him my information, and I ended up booking. It was just an extra role, but I got to be an extra in Spy Kids 3. And the next one that came out, I got to be an extra in the Friday Night Lights TV show in the first episode. And I got to be an extra in a movie called Idiocracy.
And those were all filmed in Austin.
All filmed in Austin. And I remember like I got
back in what, like
so like that
2003?
Yeah. That was from me being like between 13 and 16.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
So between those years is when I did all that.
Maybe like 2004.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember being on these sets and seeing like Terry Crews. What's
the guy's name in Friday Night Lights that you sat with and ate? Like,
Emil Hirsch.
Yeah,
ate lunch with him. And that was like his first thing. It was the first episode, first thing he'd ever done. Him and like pretty much all the cast of Friday Night Lights. Like I was sitting around them in the stands, talking with them, hanging out. I didn't know who they were. Didn't know that half of them were going to grow up to be these giant
they didn't
actors.
either, like at the time.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And
that's so cool.
But doing those jobs showed me behind the scenes of what making a movie is.
And that was your first introduction into the camera world.
Yeah.
Like like the true behind the scenes, like behind the
Yeah,
scenes.
yeah. I saw that, and I would watch the director's work. I remember on the Spy Kids set, Robert Rodriguez, he'd have his guitar. He had like his video village, which is like, for those of you who don't know, it's like a little station set up with a bunch of monitors that the director can monitor and everything. But he had a guitar stand on his video village, and they like wheeled it out for him, and he would just pluck his guitar. And
like
put
get
it
the
up.
creative
yeah,
juices
yeah,
flowing.
just like in between sets. And I was like, this is so cool.
So when did you pick up guitar? Because like there's definitely a like correlation between.
Oh, guitar? I've always wanted to play guitar, but I really started when I was around that same age, around 13 is when I learned. And
okay, so this was all happening simultaneously.
I was doing everything I could do to not be in school.
Okay.
Like I was not a good student. All of my interests were outside of school. Music, movies, filmmaking, everything. Like I had no interest in school at all. And
which now as adults, I feel like we've both learned there's definitely a huge gap, I guess you could say, in the way that the systems are just run, that there's so many really talented kids that have just different styles of learning. And I mean, everyone was just doing their best, obviously. And I mean, everyone's like, go to school, get good grades. But you knew from the beginning, you're like, this is not it. This is not.
I don't know.
I mean, you loved writing and English, but
yeah.
I mean, but just the structure of school, like with the way your brain works, like sitting down in a boring room, silent for 8 hours.
I couldn't do it. Like when I was in school, I was drawing pictures of guitars and drawing like camera, like literally, like my brain was just not there. But I forgot what I said before that, where we were before that. Oh yeah, seeing like Robert Rodriguez's work and like play the guitar and like watching them like move the lights and like he would just decide on the spot, like, oh, let's just do that here.
But that goes along with, I mean, I feel like that's probably your first time seeing someone whose brain probably works similar to yours. Yeah. Because there's so many people that I've heard say they have like similar experiences in school, and then it's like they've gone on to do really amazing, great things, but that they just, their brains don't work that way. So, I mean, for you, as a kid stuck in school, you were probably like, oh, like there's people that are doing it differently, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that just made me want to do it even more. So after those extra jobs, those film jobs, I remember asking my dad for a camera. I think I got it for like Christmas or my birthday or something. And so they got me like a...
And you were probably 16.
Yeah, this is about 16. And I was also like playing in a band with my friends and stuff. So I was like, oh, it'd be cool.
And this is close to when we met.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we were actually... I don't know if we were dating when I did Friday Night Lights.
No, not yet. No. But we became friends first for a few years before we started dating. Yeah. Yeah.
And I got the camera and I was like, oh, this is cool because I can film us playing and like I can learn editing and everything. And it just like took off from there. I was filming everything in high school.
Everything.
Like I filmed our pep rallies. I filmed
music videos of all your friends.
Yeah, like our bands that would play. I filmed like our senior prank.
Yeah.
I filmed everything.
Yeah.
And I learned how to edit using just some like cheap software. And then I went to a summer camp at UT. I think it was like my junior year of high school. It was like for high school kids. So I went to summer camp and they taught just the basics of filmmaking, how to use a camera, how to edit and all that. And that was my first intro into actual editing. And we used Final Cut 7. And that was
and you took classes at the Apple Store, right?
Oh yeah, I did. But I think this was after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I learned like my basics there, and I still remember the teacher was Yaki Smith, and he's still at it today. Like he was a grad student at the time. I guess the grad students taught like the high school kids, and he had just had his short film, which was his thesis film, get into Cannes Film Festival. And I think he even won. He just got back from France and like got to go do that whole thing. Yeah. And I didn't know what that meant at that time. I didn't even know what a film festival was. But looking back now, it was like really cool. Yeah. So he taught us how to edit. And I still, like to this day, he told us like that this is like day one advice was like anything you can cut. And I still hear that like to this day. It's like the first thing I learned.
That's solid advice. Yeah, like don't leave anything in there if it's not important to the story.
Cut it if you like as thin as you possibly can. Yeah. And I still listen to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we learned Final Cut and I didn't have a Mac and I got an iMac I think like within that year. but I didn't really know like how to edit that well. I just knew like basic cuts and stuff. And
but I mean, you still are like, I've never really seen anyone as fast and efficient in Final Cut as you because you started so early. And I know that the program or the software changed a lot throughout the years, like as it adapted, but there's still like the youngins that we meet today are like, who works in Final Cut? But I think it's just because when I took video editing classes in school, and we were still like, Final Cut was the professional program. Like we were still, it was, I'm pretty sure, what was after Final, it wasn't 10.
No, so it was
X.
It was Final Cut 7.
7. And
then they went to 10.
Yeah, because I think it was still Final Cut 7 where the interface was like light gray with like the timeline. Yeah.
But that's why like it went to Final Cut 10 and they completely changed the program. Like it was like
they got rid of like all the features that they tried to make it more user friendly, but then it became more like iMovie. Like,
and I stuck with it because it's just what I knew, and I was like, I'm going to learn it. But everyone jumped ship and went to Adobe Premiere. And Adobe Premiere is still similar to what Final Cut 7 was.
Yeah.
And now,
but now you can actually edit in, well, we're skipping ahead, but you had to learn to edit Premiere on, like, hands-on for the documentary feature, and now you can edit in both, which is nice. So,
yeah. But, so I got the Mac, and I didn't really know how to use all the features in Final Cut, and they had, like, the Genius Bar thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't remember, like, I think I paid for a year of training or something like
tutorials.
that.
Yeah.
And so every Thursday, me and my dad would drive to Houston or to Sugar Land, where we live now.
Yeah, full circle.
I know. And we'd go sit in the Apple store for an hour. He would sit with me while a guy named Rizzo taught me.
And y'all have stayed friends even after all these years?
I was like 17, 18 then, and we're still friends to this day.
Yep.
And we still talk. And
it's so crazy. Life is so crazy. I mean, even thinking that whenever, like, growing up in such a small town, coming to a place like Sugar Land was like a special occasion. Yeah. Because, I mean, if you think about driving an hour, it's not like an hour with traffic. It's like an hour going like 65 or 70 miles an hour, like straight.
Hour. Yeah.
And so, it was always like, Sugar Land was just like, it always just felt like the big city, you know, compared to what we were used to growing up. So it's really weird how we have so many memories here, and like we're living here as adults and like making our own memories now. It's it's crazy.
And the talent agency I was signed to as a kid was based in Sugar Land.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, it's weird. Yeah. How so much has come here.
Yeah.
But
okay. So fast forward to,
shout out Rizzo. You my dog.
So you get all of your fundamentals, and now you're in the like obsession phase. You're shooting everything, editing everything. Like, I guess past, like, in the college and then like later years, like, how did you transition from like, what did you enjoy shooting? What did you not enjoy shooting? When did you learn that there was like so much more to it than just like having a camera? Because so much developed, you know? Yeah.
So like, I went to college just because like that's what you did. Did my basics, and I tried to go to film school, and I ended up not finishing that either. Surprise. But that's whenever me and you started taking it like more seriously. And we started shooting weddings. We started shooting, around that time too is when the cameras merged. So that's whenever like
the DSLRs could shoot video.
You didn't have to have like separate. So I remember, I think it was you that got a 70. And
well, you had what did you have before that? The 60D?
No, I got 60D after you.
Oh, okay.
So like,
you had because my 70 didn't have a flip out screen or anything.
Yeah. Before that, I had the Panasonic HVX 200, but that was those were the days that everyone was like chasing depth of field. So we would build these like huge.
It was hard to get the compression.
These like, they had these I forget what they called, like a Red Rock Micro thing. So it was basically like a lens mount that would go in front of your camera that had a little rotating frosted glass to emulate film grain inside of it, and then you could connect a DSLR lens to that. But it ate up so much light. Well, I
remember back then it would be dark at high noon. Like it was like you definitely weren't in a place, and there wasn't there weren't options to just buy affordable artificial lights by any means.
No.
So everything we were shooting everything natural light just because that's what we had, but everything was really hard to get.
And I remember I worked an entire summer doing construction in the heat just to buy that piece so that I could do it. It was like $2,000, and I saved up all summer to buy it.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, the cameras merged and they became more low light sensitive than that. And
well, yeah, because then you could shoot like f2.8 or whatever on like a super shallow depth of field with a DSLR. And it's funny because that became, that era, everyone was seeking it, but then it became like, once it was irrelevant, it was like, oh no, that's like the DSLR look.
Yeah,
like it just became
super
like
shallow depth of field. Yeah,
with the like the focus.
Yeah. So we shot weddings. We shot. I learned photography then, which I'm glad I did because it taught me so much later.
Well, about lighting.
Lighting, yeah. We got really big into photography and off-camera flash, and it just taught me like the fundamentals of lighting, and we did everything. We just like for the next 7 years just ran with that. Like we did our own business where it was a portrait business, but I would implement my video stuff to it so we could promote it. So we
would shoot behind the scenes on our shoots, but we also would do video packages for weddings and stuff too. Yeah.
And during that time, that's whenever I met Jason, and that was like
a whole chapter. In itself.
That's like one of those like you have these like chapter markers in your life. That like was one of those pivoting chapter markers in my life.
Yep.
So Jason was the guy who played Tommy in the Power Rangers, hence why we have the Power Ranger helmet on the desk. But he played the Green and White Ranger, and I think, this had to be in like 2011 or 2012. Somewhere I saw that he lived in Houston, and I just randomly like shot his fan page a message and was like, hey, like
on Facebook or something.
Yeah, on Facebook. I was like, hey, like I'm local, like if you ever need videos, let me know, and I'd love to like work with you. And he got back with me. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, let's shoot some stuff. And I remember the first shoot was,
you were like, wait, really?
Yeah, I was like freaking out because I'd never really I'd never met anyone famous, much less like someone that was like my childhood hero. Yeah. Like I literally went to Halloween as the White Ranger one year. I just did like most people my age. Yeah. But I remember the first thing we shot was him skydiving. He was like, come to the drop zone and you can film some cool skydiving stuff. Yeah. And I was like, I can't jump out of a plane, but I'll come. Yeah. And so I went there.
Well, how many like opportunities in our lives have happened because we've been like, I don't know what I'm doing, but let's do it.
All of them.
I mean,
yeah, like
I feel like that's like a very dramatic one, but like these times that we're like, we don't feel qualified or we're like, who do we think we are moments? And then it's kind of like, we'll figure it out.
When you're just scared to like shoot your shot.
Yeah.
It's like, I think myself included, like I forget that the worst that can happen is they just say no.
Right.
Or ignore you. And, but that was one of the cases that it ended up changing my life.
Yeah.
And we became really good friends after that. I started filming him just do all kinds of Comic Cons, and we
y'all just clicked. Y'all connected on so many levels on like your love of like cigars and film, even like his creative and even martial arts. Like you had the background in martial arts. Like y'all just had so many different connections, and it was cool that y'all just, I don't know, you became friends more than just like, oh, I'm just like working for you, you know?
Yeah, it was cool. Like he took me he opened my eyes to the world of filmmaking.
True filmmaking.
True Hollywood, LA, everything. He took me to New Zealand with him to film behind the scenes of the 20th anniversary of Power Rangers. And he didn't even like really have permission to take me. Like he just took me and was like, yep, y'all deal with it. Like he knew he was,
which is just how he was. Like he definitely did not ask for permission for anything.
And then like he took me several times to LA with him to film with Bat in the Sun, who's another awesome production company out there. And we got to like meet so many cool people.
We got to shoot all the comic book posters, the live action comics.
Doing one of those productions with Bat in the Sun, I just took the photo camera because that's what we were doing at the time, and I got some really cool behind the scenes shots. And Dinesh, the guy that owned the comic book company, asked me to shoot the comic book covers, and one of them got blown up as the
Well,
biggest.
several of them.
Yeah, well, so they all got printed, but
Yeah.
but the one got blown up, and it was the biggest ad at New York Comic Con for that year.
Yeah.
And it was just crazy. It went from like this little kid
Yeah.
in the country to like now
Well,
we're in New York.
Every one of those moments has just been like, even when you're in it, it doesn't feel real. Like even when you're, and I don't mean like, oh, you're in a dream or something, but it's like when you're in that moment, you still are weirdly like doubting yourself. You're still like, we always joke like, who did we fool to get here? You know, like you just almost feel like you've convinced, or like you've like pulled off some sort of sneaky thing to get where you are, because it just doesn't feel real. Like those milestones.
I distinctly remember at that shoot, at the one where I shot the first covers, because me and you went back and then together we shot more. Well, they brought us,
like, you were shooting behind the scenes photos. I wasn't on that trip. And then after they saw your images, they brought us together to like properly like light and shoot the poster.
Yeah,
like
we shot the rest of them. Yeah, but that first trip, I remember I was in LA. It was like the first time I'd ever been to Los Angeles. And it's this place that I've heard of, that I've dreamed of, because I'm like, this is where movies are made. And I remember like looking up at the sky and just like being like, I'm here, like doing this, like on a film set. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah. And I had never been until those shoots, and then the Lord Draken film shoot, or was it for the trailer?
Yeah.
Or the concept?
Yeah.
I had never been on like, not in Los Angeles anyway, like an actual studio production, like behind the scenes, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, looking back, we were just like a bunch of really naive kids, but it's just like I said, you just stand up against a wall and you're just kind of like,
you just go
blend in and hope no one notices we're not supposed to be here.
And that was like, I mean, unfortunately he's been gone 2 years now. He passed away 2 years ago, but he purposely pushed me into those corners like that. Yeah. And I remember he would book these things for me, or like
he loved to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, hype me up to people to where I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do that. He's like, oh, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I still remember him, like I can hear his voice and figure it out. And he pushed me so much to do that. And that was like definitely maybe the biggest like chapter so far in like my filmmaking career was getting to work with him and him showing me and opening my eyes to this world.
I mean, he saw potential that you didn't. And I guess for some reason, like, I don't know. I think that, well, not for some reason. I mean, I definitely think that y'all's friendship was like so special and unique, but I just think that you were also such a good friend to him, and he didn't have a lot of people like that he could trust. And I think that he respected, you were always going to be real with him. Like, you weren't one of those people that was like, oh, I'm just going to like, you know, kiss up to you and like tell you what you want to hear. Like, you were real with him, you know? Yeah. And he would ask you because he valued your opinion, and he knew you weren't just going to like tell him like, oh, this is what you need to hear.
Yeah.
And I think so because of that dynamic between y'all, he was just willing to push you out of your comfort zone. Yeah.
I really tried to not be, and I do this with everyone. Like, it's just not in my nature to be a yes man.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter who the person is. Like, I'm going to tell it how it is.
Yeah.
And I think he respected that, and he liked that because I wasn't going to be like, oh yeah, everything you do is awesome. You know, because.
Well, there's times that he needed constructive criticism on a project he was working on or whatever. And like, it was hard for him to find that. So I think that, obviously always done it out of love and respect, but yeah.
Yeah. But that was a really cool, like, learning experience. And that was like, life was happening faster than because we were running the portrait business, but then also like working with him and doing all of that.
Well, we kept working with him. We moved to Austin and then worked on some stuff with him, and then even like got to work on some stuff with him with Alpha Elite. So it's cool like that he was kind of a part of a lot of different phases of our lives. Yeah.
He and then like one of the last conversations, I saved it, that he like texted me, I guess, because he voice texted a lot. He didn't like, we didn't talk on the phone that much, but like he would send a lot of voice texts. But it was after our first film, 30 minutes. And he was just saying like, you're doing it like this is it. Like your talent is there. You're like this. Like, he was so proud.
Yeah. And so cool that he was able to actually see you make a
Yeah.
film after talking about it for so long.
Yeah. And we always had plans to like, we're like, one of us is going to make it, and when we do, we're going to bring the other one. And I mean, fortunately, it didn't pan out that way, but I don't know. I feel like people are put in your life for a certain amount of time for a certain reason.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful for that. I'm, like, I'll always cherish that. That's why, like, I always he gave me so many toys and
I don't know that the whole thing's in frame, but that was like also your first Netflix.
Yeah. So this poster was,
or credit, I guess. Like you got to film his interview.
It's called Making Fun, and it's a documentary that's on Netflix about the Funko Pops. And he brought me on to film his interview portion of it, and so that was my first like Netflix credit, which is cool.
So if y'all ever see a green or white Ranger Funko,
Yep.
they're actually worth some money now, so snag it.
I always go look for those.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then like you said, we moved to Austin.
Yeah. So then let's like shift from you, like the point in your life that you kind of realized that, I mean, every creative hits this, but like, I guess when you started having, well, not started, but like having doubts and feeling like what did you do or what do you do whenever you're at this point of kind of like the balance between making money and like doing what you love?
Yeah.
I know that's kind of a loaded question, but that was kind of the inspo behind us moving to Austin and like having a reset.
Yeah.
Well, you broke your ankle.
Yeah, I remember like I broke
skydiving.
Yeah, Jason got me into skydiving and ended up breaking my ankle.
You can thank him for that too.
But when I broke my ankle, I was like bound to the couch for 3 months. I couldn't like walk. We lived on the 3rd floor apartment with no elevator, so like I was stuck upstairs.
Yeah. I won Wife of the Year that year.
Yeah, she had to help me in ways that I hope she never has to help me again.
That was rough. It was it was rough to see you mentally. Like I mean, the physical aspects are like duh, but to see you mentally struggle and feel like you're just questioning everything.
Yeah.
You know, when you can't shoot and you can't work.
You know what's funny is when you break, you think like, oh, it's your leg. You can still use your hands.
No, because you got to use crutches.
Yeah, you got to use your crutches. So like, I remember like, I want to get like a glass of water and drink it on the couch. Okay, let me like figure out how I'm going to hobble over there with my crutches. You got
creative.
Yeah.
Like he would hobble to the kitchen and then like, not water, but you could like grab a snack and like throw it on the couch and then like hobble back.
But no,
anyways,
you were awesome during that time. But during that time, that's whenever like I guess YouTube was popping off and everyone like Casey Neistat and all these people were YouTubing, and I watched so many creators on there, and it just re-sparked my love for filmmaking. Yeah. And we were pretty deep in our portrait business, and I hadn't really filmed a whole lot in probably like 5 years. And I remember telling you, I was like, I think I'm going to pursue filming again, and I don't want to do this business anymore, essentially.
Well, it was just photography.
Yeah, because our business was just photography, and I would just use my video capabilities, I guess, to use for promo.
It was a 2-part thing because at the time, our business had grown so much that we needed help.
Yeah.
And I think that I was like, we needed employees because we were like, it was a fully functioning business.
Yeah,
but
we were busy all the time. Like we spent no time at home.
And I was so overwhelmed by, I didn't have a very great knowledge of, I should say, like the legal side of business.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know anything about taxes or bookkeeping or even like setting up everything, the formalities of like hiring someone in payroll. And I was so intimidated by it that I was like, I'm only going to do this if I can do it alone. And if I can't do it alone and I need help, like I want to do something else.
Yeah. And also it's like, it hit that point, same kind of point that we've been at recently, where it's like, I want to create and I don't really want to run a business.
Well, yeah. And that's at that point I was like, I don't want to have to answer emails and run sales sessions for 8 hours a day.
Yeah, and manage employees and do payroll and like customer service and all this stuff. It's like that was beginning.
It's just
to
not the
become
route. Yeah.
more of it. So yeah, I remember telling you like if you want to still do the business like that, do it. But I think I'm gonna like try to do this video thing again and filmmaking thing. And I think you tried for like a couple of months, and you're like,
I was pretty certain though in the beginning. I was like, Well, I remember being like, I don't want to do it without you.
Yeah,
it takes all the fun out of it.
It wasn't so much like, it was us working together that
Yeah.
was like fun. It wasn't the business.
Right.
So at that time, we were like,
We
all
were
right.
driving up to Austin like any chance we got
Yeah.
just to get away, like,
And
because we loved it.
We wanted to like shoot for brands and like companies,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't really want to shoot for like, I guess, the general public anymore.
We wanted to do bigger productions, yeah.
And at that time, Houston really wasn't a place that like fed creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And we were looking at moving to LA and Austin, and we decided on Austin because it wasn't so big of a jump and way cheaper than LA.
Yeah. This was like 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we moved out there and just like pretty much started from the ground up again. Like really started from ground zero. Had to,
Which was it was terrifying, but it was so good for us because in our relationship, but in our career, because when you have nothing to fall back on, it's crazy how,
you rely on each other. Like,
yeah, you have no choice. Like there's no safety net,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that changes your mentality like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And we were in Austin for 2 years, and those 2 years were like some of my favorite years because we had nothing. We were trying every avenue. We started vlogging on YouTube. We were you were shooting real estate.
Literally
I mean, like
random. Like
I was shooting events. Like we were just doing everything we could
Yeah.
just to like make money and
Yeah.
to get our name out there. And surprisingly, our YouTube actually kind of popped off
Yeah.
while doing it. But then at that time, we got the opportunity to work with Alphalete.
Well, we were shooting with Get Your Teach On.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That was a mini chapter, like doing all of the marketing for some friends of ours in
Yeah.
Atlanta, traveling like crazy, like every month going to Atlanta.
Yeah, we were constantly on the go, and
Yeah.
and it was fun. It was really really cool.
Yeah.
And then we got the opportunity to work with Alphalete. I submitted like a
Demo.
reel, and Christian loved it, and ended up moving back to
Yeah.
Houston area to
Which
Sugar
was
Land.
never part of the plan, but
Yeah, and spent 6 years working with Alphalete.
yeah.
And like,
How do you feel like career-wise that changed your, maybe not like either your physical talents, but your perspective like on the commercial world and
so that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Because there's so much in those 6 years. The 6 years with Alphalete, that was like boot camp for me. I learned how to film really fast, like how to make high budget looking things really fast because we were doing it so much.
Yep.
And we were outputting such high volume. And
there's a point that we
technically-
were like vending machines, like just
it technically got me to be a better cinematographer and even branch into
yeah, I would
directing
agree
towards
with
the
that.
end.
Yeah.
But with that, I feel like there was a consequence with that. I think the first like 4 to 5 years was a lot of benefiting from it, but then the last 2 years was a lot of
Like a crutch.
yeah, I got comfortable and I kind of fell asleep and forgot what my true vision was. And I don't know, like I don't regret it at all, but I think with certain things, you know, especially like right now how content is like, everything's kind of bleeding in with each other. Like movies, like cinematic looking movies is turning into like Instagram, like it's just all kind of muddling together and there's no clear path on how to do it. But I just quit pursuing what I feel like I was being called to pursue. And now I look back and I'm like, man, if I 2 years ago would have just woken up and started working like I am now towards the things, like, not that it's a race, but I feel like I would have been a lot farther along. And
It's crazy you say that because like all of your films were made in that kind of like 2-year window.
yeah.
So you could say
Yeah.
that you could say that it was like a distraction, but at the same time you might have subconsciously have known
Yeah.
already. Like maybe you didn't know you knew. But it's kind of, it seems that you were aware of it. You were just
I I didn't know that I was aware.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's whenever you're just kind of like in this
Yeah.
autopilot, because I remember whenever you wrote 30 minutes or whenever the very first when you were like, I'm gonna just shoot a dadgum film.
Yeah.
Because your whole life you've said, I'm a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And I remember you being like, I'm fake. Like I'm not a filmmaker because I've never made a film.
And mind you, I was 32 when I made my
even
first
that though
short
is
film.
a stretch because obviously you made films in school and we made films like with Alpha Elite literally for a living. But I mean, a narrative personal project
where
film.
I wrote, directed, edited everything. Yeah, it was 32 before I actually did that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like at that point I hit my like.
You're like, I can't.
Yeah, I was like, either I'm going to do this now or I'm not going to do it.
It was like a rip the Band-Aid off moment. Yeah.
And yeah, with 30 minutes, I remember I told myself, I locked myself in a room and I was like, you're going to write a scene. You're not going to commit to it being a film where it has to have a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
Just write a scene with one actor, one location, in a location that you can go there and you can film it and nobody has to know.
Yep.
And so I did that.
It's ironic that that's how you did it as like a way to not make excuses, you know, or not talk yourself out of it. But then it ended up being so many people wanted to get involved. Like so many friends were so excited.
I've wanted to make movies my entire life. And my biggest fear with making movies or making a film was failing in front of everybody. Was everybody shows up for this film and I don't know what I'm doing and I make it and it's trash and then
because it's vulnerable.
Yeah, and it's like I don't want to release it because it looks so bad, but then everyone's like, "Hey, where's that film that you did?" And I was just so terrified of that that it froze me from ever wanting to do it. But by me eliminating all that and saying I'm going to do one actor that's a friend,
and no one has to see it,
and no one has to see it. Like it's just going to be us, and it
ended up being really good.
Yeah, and I did what I do best, and I told everybody that I was doing that. And then,
friends.
Yeah, I told friends, and then they were like, we want to come help. And I was like, oh, okay.
You're like, dang it, now people know.
Which was great, because we ended up having like eight extra people to come out there.
It was so fun,
And it turned out way better than I could have thought.
Yeah.
And
I'll never, ever, ever forget when we left that shoot, we like loaded the car and we did it as low budget as we could. I mean, I remember I Venmo'd our friends maybe like $50 or something for like their time, their gas and time, just like a thank you. But I remember we loaded the car, gave everyone a hug, told everyone bye, and we were in the car, like going through, we were leaving, I can like remember the road, like leaving the studio through Houston, and you had this like glow, like you had this like aura like coming out of you. I don't know what you want to call it. And I remember we were kind of just like sitting in each other's in the quiet, and you were like, this feeling, like this is it. Like this is what I want to do every day for the rest of my life. And I have like goosebumps whenever I think about it, because it's not something that you can ever, and you've had that every time you've done a film. But I think that was kind of the first time I had ever heard you outwardly say, like, it doesn't matter if it's good or not. Like, this is what I want to do. You know, at that moment, you weren't thinking about what people thought. You weren't thinking about like, is the film good? It didn't matter, you know? And that, I feel like that's a really special thing.
I remember like, that was the moment I was like, this is what I was built to do. And that film was cool because I don't know, it just showed what we can do with such little. And it went on to go to some small festivals and won some awards. And
Harry won Best Actor in one of the festivals. And he had never even really acted before.
Yeah, our friend Harry, who I got to be in it, I DM'd him and I was like, hey, you want to be in my... Or no, I posted on my story, does anyone like want to act in a film? And he wrote me and he was like, I've never done it before, but I'm down.
Yeah.
And he ended up winning Best Actor at one of the short films, film festivals. But yeah, that was a fun one. And that one, and then we made Cielo a year later.
Which was like film school all over again.
Man, Cielo was like, you're going to hate me for saying this, but Cielo was not a good film, but I learned so much from it. Like that was a huge growth for me. I got blind confidence after doing 30 minutes, and I was like, okay, On this one,
you swung the other way.
yeah, I was like,
Let's
I want
go
to do
complicated.
a bunch of locations. I want to have extras. I want to have multiple actors, and I want to do a fight scene in it.
Yeah.
And
2 fight scenes, big fight scenes.
yeah, one was like kind of like a beating up scene.
Well,
it was a
technically,
fight. But
you had to train for it.
for that one, I was focused so much on that that I ignored the story.
The script, yeah.
And it was just like a weak script, but what we were able to do was insane. Like, I think we shot 5 locations in 3 days. Did the fight scene. Harry was an actor again in it, and he learned how to fight, do stunt fighting. John came and did the stunt choreography. John I say John Nujek because that's his Instagram name, but Perez is his last name. He came and did stunt choreography. So I learned so much. I mean,
that's what I was going to say. I feel like if you want like an advanced fast track through like a film school, just make a film.
That's literally what the
Like,
money that you would spend going to film school, and this is from someone who went to film school.
I'm not saying film school is not valuable, but you just learn like hands-on so fast.
Yeah, you go make a
kind
film
of like
with that
in
money.
a not fun way.
I will say film school is great for connections.
Yeah.
Like you're going to meet people that you
did make a lot of connections like still to this day.
That you keep in touch with, and that is great for film school. But as far as learning technically how to make a film, just go make it. Like that's going to be the thing that teaches you the most. Yeah.
It's just it's not like what I said earlier. There's no safety net. Like in film school, you have like a safety net. I feel like a little bit of like you can experiment, and you're in school and you're a student, so it's fine. But when you're making a film, man, it's like just not, it's like the learning you need, but you don't want, you know, like it's just not very fun because like it's so vulnerable and personal, and it's hard not to take things to heart whenever something doesn't turn out the way that you want it to. And, but it's like such a necessary part of like the learning process. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a really interesting, like, process for that. And that was kind of like your first process on like producing anything and like organizing it all. And,
which is interesting because I've never considered myself a producer, but like title wise, but then when you zoom out and you realize that you've been producing for years, you just never called it that, like from the formality standpoint. But it was really, really fun kind of I felt kind of like the ringleader. Yeah. Like I was just like wrangling everyone the whole time. We had a lot.
Like I remember we had like 15 or 20 extras in the coffee shop scene.
And had to get like signed waivers for everyone. And
location releases.
The call sheets. And,
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
That though even though I wasn't happy, I say the film wasn't good. My script wasn't good. Everyone did amazing in the film. Like it was just my writing.
Visually it was beautiful. Yeah.
But that gave me the confidence to know that when we do our first feature, like we can do it because we did so little in that. And I know like, it's like, all right, let's just do that like 4 more times and we'll have a feature.
Yeah.
And
then Glow, we kind of took all of the stuff, we kind of met in the middle between like the first and the second film and wanted to, your focus was all script on Glow. Like you were like, and it was our first time ever having a DP, you not handling the camera. Ian was the DP on that, which was so fun. It was that was a learning process too, because you were like, I feel weird without the camera in my hands.
So weird. Yeah. For CLO, like me and Kirby were setting up the lights. I was manning the camera.
You and Ozzy would trade
come
off
when he could. I know he had to like work and stuff, but he would help me, but it was like us 3 pretty much like doing it all. Yeah. And I couldn't pay any attention to the acting. I couldn't really.
Because we were like, where's this light need to be? Or Nick helped us with like the sound.
Yeah,
like,
I was looking at the frame so much.
Yeah.
What's in focus? And that I didn't really like pay attention to the acting. So on
their
Glow,
performance, I told
myself I want to like pour everything into the story and into acting. And I wanted to tell a specific story and I wanted to practice
subtext.
Yeah, and telling the story between the couple and it being their relationship being strained without actually like being so upfront about it. And I think we did a really good job with that.
Yeah. And everyone that we talked to saw the underlying message.
Yeah.
And that was a success.
Yeah.
That alone is all that mattered.
That's what I made the film for. I didn't make the film to create like this proof of concept for this like crazy alien film. I just wanted to tell that story between the husband and wife. And if that got across to me, that was a success. And it did.
Yeah.
And all the little hidden things that I put in there, the kid's bike, like all these different things, they all put it together and it worked. And I was like, okay, now I know, like, I feel like I'm at a base level now to where I can start learning how to perfect that.
Even having a goal, like, I feel like even knowing that you need to have a goal for the film, that sounds like so obvious, but it's not that obvious because whenever you're making a film, you're like, okay, what's your goal? Well, I want it to look beautiful and I want the story to be good and I want people to be moved by it and I want it to get attention, like if it's going on YouTube or at a film festival, and it's all these separate goals, and it's like, you can't achieve all of them if you don't have a tangible...
Yeah. Well,
you have to, like, put your focus on, like, what is your primary focus of this film,
I think a lot of those goals, too, and a lot of goals for people that think that are outward, external goals, like, I want this to reach people. I want this to, like, do well in film festivals. I want it to get hype, whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like you grow when you have internal goals you set for yourself. Like, I want to learn this specific thing in filmmaking, or I want to practice this thing. And then
there's not a right and wrong way. No. Or I shouldn't say there's not like good goals and bad goals, but it's like being clear with yourself on what your goal is, at least to where and your internal team or your close people know, like, this is the purpose of this film. Because if that gets foggy along the way, it just becomes so difficult because it's impossible to make a film. I shouldn't say impossible. It's very hard to make a film alone. And so, like, you need a good film. And you need a team that's all on the same page. So that's something that I've definitely seen a big, like, growth in us and working with people and just, like, being very transparent about what we're doing with that film,
Yeah, and even now, like, my next short film that I'm working on, I have a very specific thing that I'm practicing. It's not just to make a good film. It's to...
So it's like you're putting your reps in, all your different... Like, okay, this one, the target is this. This one, the target is this. Yeah.
Like, I'm just trying to take it up a level, each one, and get more complex with storytelling. Like, first one, or not first one, but Glow was, to try to practice subtext between the characters. This one, I want to try to tell the story through the perspective of the main character. So not an objective point of view, but a perspective point of view. And doing that with camera work, with lighting, with dialogue, everything. So that's the one thing I'm practicing. And
which means, like, as the viewer, you feel like you're the main character.
Yeah.
Like, you're experiencing what they're experiencing.
Yeah. So it's like things get revealed to the audience as they get revealed to the main character.
Yeah.
So you see it through their eyes versus an objective story.
Like, the character doesn't know the whole picture, but the main character... the viewer doesn't know the whole picture, and the main character hasn't experienced it yet.
Yeah. So you're on the same page. Versus, like, an objective view, the audience knows stuff that the main character doesn't. So that's one thing I really want to practice. I also want to practice on Glow.
Do you have a title for your next film?
I did, but then I changed the script.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to come up with a new
I was like,
title.
can we plug it yet or no?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
It was called Thicker Than Water, but that was like the ending line, and I took that line out, so now it's done. But yeah, on Glow, I did a lot of, I did pre-production, but it was very minimal. It was my first time working with a DP, so I didn't really know, like, what I needed to provide. All the times before, I knew what I needed because I'm the one filming it. I'm the one doing it.
Yeah.
But working with Ian on this time really, like, opened my eyes.
Well, it taught you how important, like, it is to be able to communicate the stuff in your head.
Which is everything as a director. Yeah. Communication is everything. So on this one, I'm working with... Cameron, who is also a friend of mine and Ian's years. Like, we've known Cameron for about 2 years now. But I I really want to nail the pre-production and have everything communicated beforehand. Mm-hmm. That way, when we get there, it opens up the freedom to be creative. Mm-hmm. And we don't have to like sit there and try to figure out the problems or figure out this and that. We already kind of have the base
like
problems.
All the technicalities.
Yeah, like figured out before we get there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be problems. There's always problems on film sets, but we're like trying to.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting because we want to keep learning. Like you said, we're always going to have new things to learn, but whenever we do work on our feature and actually have more at stake, like put more money into something, we want to have all of these kind of like wrinkles ironed out to where we can hopefully avoid some of the bigger mistakes, like from learning from the past. Yeah,
I always say like now I feel like I'm learning, like I'm at the base level of like the first, 2 or 3 films were learning how to make a movie. Mm-hmm. It's like you're just learning how to put it together. Now I feel like I'm at the very first level of learning how to make a good movie or how to make one that's enjoyable to watch or that keeps attention.
Well, you also had a lot of practice with the documentary feature or the feature length documentary, because that was the first time that you've ever made something of that length. Yeah. And I know that project specifically was like, y'all didn't set out to make it in the beginning. That's not what it was going to be. But from an editing standpoint, and even like from you directing the vision or the story that was being told, it is good that you already are kind of getting like some reps under your belt, you know, for like a long, that long form.
That's funny. So I made the feature length documentary, and even though it was a documentary, like I want to do narrative, but that was a documentary. It let me know you can make something of this length. Yeah. And it's kind of like, how when you run, you're like, you think about like, oh, I can't run 6 miles. I've never done that before. But then you run 7 one day and you're like, oh, 6 miles is easy. Yeah. It's kind of like that. So now
that's what I mean. Yeah. I feel like that was really good for you, because now it's like, it doesn't seem like, oh, that's impossible, to make something. Sometimes something just because of the length can be daunting, and it's like you said, it's really just, 3 or 4 short films strung together.
Yeah.
But,
and I'm simultaneously, like while working on that next short film, I'm currently writing the first feature. Which hopefully this year we can make some headway on. I want to do a proof of concept from it first. So like pluck one of the scenes out and film one of those, and then hopefully get funding to do the feature. Yeah. So if anyone listening to this is a financier on feature films, hit me up. Yeah. We could use the help.
We have a lot to learn in that world too. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's all just been a crazy ride and a crazy learning experience. And I feel like we're still just at the beginning.
I think that's the beauty of what we do, that we're always going to feel like beginners in a weird way. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I know people say like you should always be a student to your craft, but it's exciting to feel like you have so much potential, because if you become a pro at something, it's like not as much fun anymore when you're like, all right, I know everything there is to know. So
I know it's hard to do, but I never want to become jaded to this. Like I never want it to feel like, I gotta go make a movie. Like I don't think it will, because I'm just such a fan of movies. Like I love them so much, and I always, any chance I get, I can watch them. But I want to always be trying to become better and learn everything I can and just better the craft any way that I can.
Yeah. Well, I know from personal experience that you have inspired and motivated me more than words can say, but beyond just me, there's so many of our friends and family that I know you don't always see it, because everyone's obviously like their worst critic in their mind, but that you, no matter how long it's taken you, the fact that you don't give up, and that this dream that you've had since you were a kid is still there, and it's alive and well, and you're still after it, is very inspiring. So
thanks.
I think it's that's something that we tend to forget, Yeah. And like it's a good reminder from an outside perspective that people are out there looking at others, not just us, but we do it with
Yeah.
people, and it's like they're still going, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like it's freaking hard, but they're still going.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me
So-
sad when I see people that I've, I would follow a long time ago, like 10 or 15 years ago, like on Vimeo or whatever, and then they're not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, it's discouraging and sad,
Yeah.
but I don't know. If I wasn't, I don't know what I would do if I wasn't chasing this. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean-
I wouldn't be fun to be around probably.
I think anytime anyone's ever asked us, like, how have you kept at it for this long? Our answer is just always that there's never been a backup plan. There's never been
Yeah.
a plan B.
Yeah.
There's only ever been this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a terrifying and beautiful thing.
Yeah. But we've been able to do some really cool stuff because we've had no backup plan.
Yeah.
Like we've, given everything up several times to start over, and we've learned from each one of those pivots and times where it feels like we made a mistake. We just, looking back later, realized that we had to do that. It wasn't a mistake. It was part of the journey.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think both of us are huge believers that God's given us these dreams and these talents for a reason, and that anytime, I don't know, it's just like we always just have to just trust that gut feeling of like, keeping at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah. That was fun.
I always love, like, even sometimes it's like new stories for me to hear too.
Yeah. I get like, whenever I guess tell my story or whatever, there's so much that,
Yeah, there's so many pieces.
yeah,
of
it's
that,
like this caused this, caused this, caused this, and then I back up and I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
but
and it's all intertwined, which
Yeah.
is so cool. Yeah.
yeah, and
but
there's
this
so
was
much
really
more
fun.
that I didn't even get to like
Yeah.
touch on, but maybe in future episodes on more specific things like I can bring up like with Mark Chavarria
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, and I'm really excited because hopefully, like, as we continue these, we'll be able to bring in some people who have inspired us and
Yeah.
friends. I mean, even it's just really cool to hear other perspectives because we all have individual lives and experiences that lead to where we are today.
yeah,
So, yeah.
and hopefully, some of those people's stories can inspire the listeners.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Alrighty.
okay.
It's dinner time.
Till next time. Thank you guys for watching. That was fun.